Welcome to our new podcast suite in our new office. You're actually the first guest to experience the new space.
Wow, what a privilege. I don't know if the cameras can see it or the audio won't be able to see it, but there's a very lovely fluffy rug that I've just happened to take my feet off to feel. So it's a good experience in here. Highly recommend.
I'm looking forward to our chat today. Etch Sparkling is a brand that I've come to know a lot more in recent years, being involved with the Frankston Business Chamber in particular. And then before I came full-time into Fixon Media, I was working at Wild Grain, which was a restaurant, and we stocked it there. So come to be very familiar with it.
Yeah, they've been great supporters since really day dot. So thank you. That's great to know.
Fantastic. So let's talk about day dot then. So back in circa 2019, when yourself and Jason launched Etch, did you have a bit of a genuine conviction that non-alcoholic beverages would become what they are today? Because there's been such a movement, particularly the past 6-7 years since you launched, where it's becoming more and more popular as a category. So did you see that coming on the horizon?
Well, to be honest with you, if it's okay, can I go back to our backstory and sort of share before we get to 2019 and the launch? So Jason and I met working in the wine industry. We both were, Jason was 23 years in the wine industry, from making wine through to building wine brands. And we met over a shared passion for good food and good wine. But somewhere along the way, Jason's relationship, for the majority of the time, it was what would be considered I wouldn't use the word healthy relationship with alcohol, but a normal relationship with alcohol, in that, you know, he'd have a glass of wine with a meal, and same with myself. But they got to a point where he became, he was self-medicating basically. So instead of having a knockoff beer after work, he sort of needed that knockoff beer to wind down and de-stress. And the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday knockoff drinks became Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So over time, his relationship with alcohol became problematic. And working in the wine industry, it's obviously very challenging because it's all around us. It wasn't just a part of his everyday world, 9-to-5 job. It's obviously involved in social situations, you know, every occasion, commiseration, celebrations, alcohol is there. And so when he was attempting to moderate his alcohol for a number of years, and eventually worked out that wasn't going to be possible and that he needed to leave the wine industry. And it was during that period that it was really a challenging time, obviously, but it was during that period that he said to me, well, what am I going to do with the rest of my life now? Because wine was my passion. It was all I'd ever known. And I said to him, well, why don't we create an alcohol-free drink that gives people that same ritual, that same sense of social inclusion, just without the booze? And at that very moment, I watched the lights in his eyes come back, and he ran off to the office, and he pretty much hasn't come out since. It really came from a personal need before seeing a gap in the market. Once that idea was sparked, Jason went off. He's the numbers man, and I have to also say that he's really sorry he can't be here today, because he would have loved to have. We're definitely a team, the two of us, with Etch. So, but he went off to the office and he did all, the statistics of the gap in the market, basically. He was looking at the time the Australian government had put out information about how 1 in 10 Australians over the age of 18, had not consumed alcohol in the last 12 months. And that statistic blew his mind, because he said, well, for starters, we don't know anyone who doesn't drink alcohol. But if you look at a beverage list, is there 20% of the beverage list, targeted for people who aren't drinking alcohol over 18? And the answer is no. There really isn't, other than your soft drinks and waters. There really was nothing that was sophisticated. And so that's, again, that sort of gave us the tick to go ahead. That was part of the research.
Fantastic. That moment as a partner, as a family, where Jason realised there was an issue, how did you feel in that moment yourself personally? And then how did you work through that over that period of time?
So I guess it was over probably around a 2-year period where, to be honest with you, he came to me one day and said, I think I've got a problem with alcohol. And I laughed it off and I said, you've got to be kidding. Like, I don't see your alcohol consumption any different to anyone else where I look around. You know, my friends tell me their husbands drink the same quantities that you do. And I think that was probably not the right thing to do, because he knew in his instinct that something was wrong. He had been to over 4 GPs over that period of time seeking support. But unfortunately, and this is no shame on GPs, but unfortunately people knew us as being in the wine industry, and often they would want to buy wine off us. As far as how I felt, I wanted to support him, obviously, and I did a lot of research into how I could support him and how I could help him and help understand what he was going through, basically. But anyone who knows alcohol addiction knows that it doesn't make sense to the outside person looking in. Any addiction, I guess, is the same. And so it was a challenging period, but we worked through it together. Jason ended up going to an alcohol rehab facility. And we have 2 children, but they were young children at that time, around 8 and 10. And so my role was really just to hold the family together while he worked on his mental health. And thankfully, he's celebrating 7 years sober now.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
That's lovely.
Thank you.
It would have been a really challenging time professionally as well, because you've had a couple of decades, correct, in the wine industry. Mm-hmm. That's your livelihood. That's what you know. That's your life. Mm-hmm. It's what people know you as. Mm-hmm. And it's so closely linked with the troubles, and you've got to try and disconnect from that, and then look to the future. How did you find that professionally, and then the relationships that you held within the industry? How did you approach that situation? Because it'd be so challenging.
It was really challenging because it was intertwined in every aspect of our life. And for a normal person, wine is often a really important part of social aspects, as we spoke about before. But, the wine industry bought our house, it bought our toys, it bought, and like you say, the relationships with other colleagues. We still loved that food and beverage pairing. We still loved we were both foodies. So it was a really difficult time. We chose to. We have a saying. I don't know where I've heard this, but I heard it one day and it really resonated. And it's shame thrives in silence. And we could have kept hush hush about what was going on behind the scenes, but I think it really kept Jason accountable by sharing. And at that stage, we were sharing with our family and close friends what was going on behind the scenes. But once it became evident that he had to leave the industry, we shared with his colleagues. And I remember Jason coming home. He'd been out for a dinner, sharing with his colleagues, and every single one of the people around the table came up to him and said, I'm impacted too. My wife's impacted. My mum's, everyone has a story with alcohol. And I just think by shining a light and showing that it's not a shameful thing is a really important part of what we do. So,
isn't it interesting how in so many circumstances takes the courage of one person to speak up, to stand up, and everyone else follows in suit. Isn't it interesting?
It really is interesting, and it's, I think every time, even preparing for today's interview, there's a part of me that I felt, should I brush over certain things, and my instinct said no, because there could be someone out there listening that resonates and that needs to hear what I have to say. So it's something we really share with passion, that we want to help people understand that back in 2017, when Jason was really in a challenging time, when I looked around, the only people that I saw with alcohol problems was the man on the park bench. I didn't see everyday people in everyday jobs struggling. And I know now that there's a lot of them walking amongst us. And so it's really important that the other people feel less alone.
Yeah, so that's support. Yeah, you don't realise how much you need it until you're in those depths of the shadows, I suppose.
Exactly, yeah. And hope. Like, I remember myself, it was actually a podcast that I was listening to when Jason was in his challenging phase. And, I reached out to the podcast host, and that hope of like hearing her story, her family story, and hearing how her husband was well really helped me, in that place as well. So,
did you feel any internal conflict stepping away from the wine industry, seeing as it had been such a big part of your life?
I didn't, because I saw what was happening to Jason, but he definitely did. And he actually had just started a new job. So he was working at his dream job. He was 7 months into a new job working for a large French family wine business and looking after their Australia Pacific business. And he said to me, I've just got to get to this point. I've just got to get to this point before, I can leave or what happens next. And I said to him, if you had a broken leg, you would go to hospital. You need help now. You can't wait for your broken leg to fix itself. And I think, it got to a place where he had to go to alcohol rehab, and, and he had to say goodbye to the job that he loved. And he really, there was so much involved in that. Obviously, he had just been flown out to France to visit the wineries and letting his employers down, and there was so much involved with that. So, it was very challenging for him.
But it created the birth for the next chapter in your lives, which has been so exciting. Yes. How did the knowledge of the wine industry help you build Etch? What experiences, what knowledge you take from the successes of that industry to bring in and craft what Etch is today?
Well, so much of that experience has shaped what Etch is. So I'll just step back a little bit with the story. When Jason came out of rehab, his dad had organised a healing walk with our local Indigenous educator on the Mornington Peninsula, Living Culture. I'm not sure if you've heard of Living Culture, but Uncle Lionel took Jason on a healing walk. He took Jason and his father and brother on a men's walk. I wasn't allowed to go. And on this walk, Lionel was sharing about the native edibles that had been sustaining First Nations people for millennia. There's foods and medicines that Jason's a runner as well, and he had run past these trees and plants and scrubs and had no idea that this existed. And so, combined with the idea of starting an alcohol-free drinks business, it was how could we utilise these incredible ingredients into our beverage industry knowledge to create something we wish existed. So that's where Etch was born.
All the flavours came from the inspiration of the natural environment.
Yeah. So The Mornington Peninsula doesn't have any commercially produced fruits and herbs that we can use in our drinks, but it sparked the idea. And so we now look to, I can get into a bit more about the flavours and things like that of how we source the ingredients. But so talking about the beverage knowledge, we knew the flavour profiles that people like. We knew from wine industry. First and foremost, I just want to say too that Etch doesn't replicate alcohol. So while we talk about the flavours being similar, they might or resemble, for example, our Davidson plum and strawberry gum might look like a rosé in a glass. So people will feel like they're having a glass of rosé, but it doesn't taste or smell like alcohol.
Sure.
So using those flavour profiles, we knew citrus, lemon, lime was going to be popular. We knew berry, knowing flavours as we do. So we looked around Australia to work out, well, where do these fruits and herbs grow naturally? Where can we source them from? And just the flavour pairings, which we started off with 3 flavours to begin with, and we've evolved now. We've got 6. So, wow. Yeah. So, for example, we get our beautiful Davidson plums from a lovely farm in Byron Bay hinterland. We get our finger limes from Sunshine Coast, Glasshouse Mountains, and our bush apples from Arnhem Land in the Northern Territory. We get them from wild harvesters up there. So each of the fruits and herbs comes from a small farming business, and we love that we're supporting farmers around the country, while building our brand.
That's brilliant. And for those that are watching, we've got a few of the flavours on show here. So we've got what's this one? The grapefruits.
Grapefruit and lemon aspen. There's bush apple and kakadu plum, so that's the one from Arnhem Land. Davidson plum and strawberry gum, which is from the Davidson plums from Byron Bay. The strawberry gums we get from a farm in Gippsland. And a lot of people think strawberry gum is a strawberry, but it's actually the eucalyptus Alida is the name of their plant, and it has a lovely strawberry flavour. It also has a really unique kiwi fruit, passion fruit. I find it really fascinating, interesting flavour. Finger lime and lemon myrtle, which is probably the one that a lot of people start with because everyone loves lemon and lime, so that's a really popular one. We have got the raspberry and mountain pepperberry, and I think and the orange and quandong. So quandong is a native peach, and we source those currently from Alice Springs. So
it's very much a national operation built on the Mornington Peninsula.
That's right. Yeah. The only state I think we're yet to get is WA, and there is an ingredient there that I would love to use because the flavour profile is amazing, but it's got a really awful name. It's called Geraldton Wax, and I don't know how to make that sound sexy for a drink. It's not really sexy, is it? So we'll work on that flavour.
You got a few challenges ahead there.
Got a few challenges with that one.
But it's interesting to see it all come together, and it's such unique flavours as well, because you see so many flavours out there for drinks, particularly from a soft drink perspective, and it's all very basic. It's raspberry, it's orange, it's strawberry, it's just basic flavours. Mm-hmm. But these have, as you're saying, that level of sophistication to it that makes it seem something a bit more premium than what you would get elsewhere. And the flavours represent that when you drink them as well.
Thank you. Yeah, and it's really important for us to amplify the native Australian food industry, because it's really something like if we were making orange juice, for example, you can just readily source oranges anywhere, and it would be very hard because everyone, oranges are easy to get. Native plants aren't so easy to get, and that is a challenge of our business, but it's, like you say, it makes it unique. It makes the flavours unique. And we really believe that native Australian fruits and herbs, with all of their incredible nutritional benefits and medicinal benefits, should be more widely known about. We couldn't believe that we didn't know about them only a few short years ago. So we definitely are listening to First Nations people and, keeping our ears open to try and learn as much as we can.
Yeah. So that's the operations perspective from the sourcing front. But how does Etch look today compared to how it was 2019? How's that progress been? And you're shipping nationally, from what I believe.
So Etch started out from our family home. We packed orders from the garage, and we'd have the kids and Jason and I packing orders on a Friday night around the dining table. And we've just recently purchased our first warehouse just around the corner in Progress Street.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So things have changed a little bit. We are shipping all around Australia. Actually, we have a really large following in rural Australia. So Jason's there at the moment. That's why he couldn't be here, because as a small family business, having two of us out of the office at once is a challenge. But yes, shipping all around Australia. Our main focus is e-commerce, so direct to consumer. We do have about 200 stockists, I think, at the moment online. So we do direct to business as well. But yeah, really the heart of Etch hasn't changed. It's still Jason and I. It's still us on the end of the customer service emails or on the end of the phone. We started off initially going to farmers markets, and I think that exposure really helped build relationships out in certain communities. We actually, Jason's father travels to Ballarat and Bendigo and Warragul, and we also do some of the local markets. But to be honest with you, that's kind of winding back a little bit now as we're getting bigger and busier. So yeah, it looks different to 2019, but also the heart and soul are still there.
Yeah. And that personal touch of being on the end of customer service emails and having that direct line to the consumer is so important. Particularly these days, it's so easy to offload those basic administrative tasks to VAs, AI even, and it's a shame, because those personal connections are what keeps people coming back to a business time and time again. Or if they experience some sort of dissatisfaction, that can sometimes be what keeps them there. They accept an apology, and they still continue to have that business, all from that personal touch.
I think, it's something, as your business grows, you may have to outsource it at some stage. But I posted recently on socials about how we handwrite a note to every single order that goes out. And it's something, the other day we had a couple of days orders, and I think I spent 3 hours writing handwritten notes to each order. And yes, my time could have been spent somewhere else, but it's really important part of our business. And I also do all the customer service emails, which can be really challenging as the founder, because Etch is my baby. And when people don't like your drinks, for example, or have a bad experience somewhere along the line with a delivery, or, a parcel gets broken, it's really hard, because I take it to heart. And that's something I'm like, one day I'd love to outsource that. But at this stage, we are still very much, on the other end of the phone. And I think that's something really important too, is we do have a phone number on our website. I think I often look at other brands and think, how do you get in touch if something's wrong, if I need to check on something? And being able to contact a brand in this day of AI, I think it's a really important personal touch. So,
and how do you balance the long-term brand building that is required from a co-founder with the short-term pressures of running a consumer product business? Because that'd be tough, right?
The challenge is the lack of time, isn't it? So, and this is a period that we're in at the moment, is that we're at this really cautious phase of growth, that we're growing steadily, but we do need to change processes, and if we want to keep growing. So, any experienced business person will say work on the business, not in the business, and we're not doing that at the moment. We are heads down, bums up, and probably struggling a little bit to keep up. And we know something has to change. So we're in that that period of change, which 2026 will definitely be bringing around a few changes, but particularly Jason. Jason works as hard as I think 4 men. Like, he just does not stop. He has 2 modes. He's go, go, go or sleep.
Yeah.
And he works incredibly hard. And so my goal this year is, I've been hassling him saying, write down everything you can do and what we could give away, because he loves to be over every single aspect of the business, and I just don't think that's possible if we're going to continue to grow.
Yeah, it gets to a certain inflection point, doesn't it, where it's just a bit too much and it slowly tips over that edge, and it's like, now you've got to put new processes in place, new people, whatever that may look like.
That's right, and it's really scary hiring new people. We have, at the moment, we have casuals who help pack orders. We outsource our canning, so we hire 6 to 8 people 1 week a month to do the canning. But as far as having, full-time staff, it's just Jason and I at this stage, and we've been discussing, well, who is that next person and what does that person look like? And it would have to be probably a bit of a jack of all trades really at this early stage, but we probably need that to get to the next phase, so it's on the cards.
I think of a lot of the modern day beverage brands. You think of a Liquid Death, Red Bull, Free Water. These are all big names that have come up over recent years. But they've come up as big names. They've taken those simple products of what they are, and they've been able to make these big brands out of them because of their unique approach to how they market their product. Mm-hmm. So I'm interested when you look at Etch, what do you think truly makes your brand stand out compared to just a traditional sparkling water as a basic product, as an example?
Yeah, it's really, I think Etch is not about flashy marketing. I mean, we don't have the marketing budget to do that to start with, but really Etch is, we want it to feel like a farm to a can to plate experience or can to glass experience, farm to fork, can to glass. So we want people to feel really connected to where the fruits and herbs are coming from. We want people to feel that it's a small boutique family business. We don't want it to appear bigger than it is. I think in the early days when we were doing our research on the ground, going to markets, we were attending craft markets and farmers markets, and we found that the farmers markets were definitely connecting to our type of customer. So they were people who cared about what was in their drinks. They wanted to know where the ingredients were from. They wanted to meet the people who made it. A bit like, going to a cellar door and meeting the winemaker and hearing the stories. I feel that is the connection that our drinks have. We're not trying to get into every single petrol station around the world and large supermarket chains. Etch is more about, really retaining that connection to us and to what we stand for. And I don't know if I've mentioned, but Etch stands for Every Time Choose Health.
Every Time Choose Health.
Yeah.
Lovely.
So the Etch. So it's like a mantra when you open the fridge. The drinks are obviously alcohol-free, as we've talked about, but they're also sugar-free. They don't contain any preservatives or anything artificial. So for people who are looking to, drink healthier, that's a little mantra when you open the fridge. Every time choose health.
I love that.
Thank you.
Did you come up with that saying? Was that you?
I did, yes. I'll take credit for that. Actually, I posted on TikTok recently about how the name came out, and somebody commented and said, I thought it was Etch, the sound of opening the can. And I was like, damn, that's really good. Why didn't I think of that?
You can claim both of them, I suppose.
Exactly.
I love the story behind it. It's so powerful. Jason's journey and addressing the troubles that were there and overcoming those troubles, and now being able to enjoy a new chapter of life. And for me, when I look at Etch, that's kind of what it represents, is that opportunity for a new chapter. And I love that both yourself and Jason are so open about the challenges of the past. When doing my research for this episode, I saw that he recently posted a blog on your website, really going into depth around what those challenges looked like and the rehab He mentioned a story where he woke up in hospital and he was unsure around how that even occurred. And I think that's so powerful. How do you, from a marketing perspective, bring such an important story into your brands? Because people relate to that, because there's so many people out there that would be in a similar position as we've touched on. How do you bring that into your marketing without it being too overwhelming or being too preachy? How do you balance it with the impact that it needs to have versus not bringing that up all the time and still concentrating on other areas? How do you balance all that?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question because it's a really heavy subject, right? It's something that I think really helped us in our early days of growth, of people really respecting and if they didn't immediately relate to having an alcohol problem, they respected that we were sharing. So, but as we grow, I think that story is important for people who want to know about it, but I don't necessarily think we don't shout that constantly, that story constantly. We have it on our website very clearly for people to find if they want to, and we do have some organic and paid ads going around with sharing that story as well. But it's a really tricky balance because we never want to make people feel judged for drinking alcohol. We're not about prohibition. Etch is really about providing options for people, whether they want to cut back or moderate, whether they're doing a dry month or whether they're having a baby, you know, whatever the reason. It's not about preaching you shouldn't drink, and that's really important. And I think by bringing it always back to us and this is our story. We're not telling you what to do, but this is our story. And like we've said, people love connecting with humans. The other really important aspect, in our early days, we connected with some really wonderful charities that work in alcohol harm. So one of the charities we work with is Sober in the Country. So Shanna Wan was Australian of the Year for Local Hero, and she does incredible work. So her charity is all around making it okay to say no. So again, they're not prohibitionists. They are about, you know, in the country and here sometimes too, you know, if someone says, no, I won't have a drink, thanks. Oh, what's wrong with you, mate? You know, come on, have a drink. Can't trust a man that doesn't drink.
There's a lot of stigma, isn't there?
A lot of stigma, very much in the bush, but also, in the city as well. And so working alongside Shanna and Sobering in the Country team, we were able to reach people who really needed to hear our message. And we also work with a wonderful Sydney-based charity called Hello Sunday Morning. And they do, the same sort of thing. They have an app that helps people to reduce their alcohol consumption. They're not, again, about prohibitionists. So I think connecting with those two charities in particular has really helped us reach the audience who need to hear us. But really our drinks are delicious drinks. So if you're at a party or you're socialising, I often think about it, if you had for example, a nail polish brand and you go to a party, no one's going to say, what's the brand of your nail polish? Whereas if you're standing at a social event, you've got a really interesting looking drink in your hand, looks grown up, doesn't look like you're having a kid's soft drink, people will often talk about it. So it's that word of mouth that really helps. I don't even know what your question was at the start, but I hope I've answered it.
You definitely answered it. It was around the balancing of the story and the purpose.
Yes, okay.
It definitely answered it. And I'll just follow up on having the drink in your hands. So I don't drink alcohol myself. And it's sometimes interesting, you go to a business event, a networking event, whatever it may be, and you've got some people, they've got beers in their hands, they've got wines in their hands, and it can sometimes be very awkward just having a bottle of water with you. And you're quite right. The can of Etch does look very mature, very grown up. So visually, it doesn't seem off-putting compared to what a bottle of water would. but you still have those same benefits of not drinking the alcohol.
Yes.
Yeah.
One of the very early, well, it would have been the first, I stopped drinking to support Jason back in, I can't even remember what year it was now, but I haven't had a drink for over 7.5 years myself now. And so I understand that feeling as well. And standing around at a Christmas party, I remember when I'd first freshly stopped drinking, everyone had a wine in their hands, and I actually took my Tupperware container of limes, and I had a soda water, and I put my lime in there, so I felt like I was having something a bit special. But I definitely felt like I wasn't a part of the party. And in saying that, I remember somebody saying to me, "Oh, gosh, you're on the waters. I wish I could drink less." So it was a conversation starter. But that was that whole thing of, well, what if I could stand there with something that made me feel like I was included, made me feel like I was part of the party, and didn't make me feel like I was missing out. And I think for people like you and I, who perhaps it's no big deal if we've got a bottle of water in our hand, but for people who are really struggling with their alcohol use, and if they're being pressured to drink, it can be life-saving, for them to have something that feels inclusive. And we receive messages from people regularly saying that our drinks have changed their life. And, I don't know how many beverage brands can say that. So, yeah, it's a really important message of social inclusion.
How does that make you feel when you get those messages?
Oh, just even talking about it, I can feel my body buzzing. It's it happens quite regularly now, and sometimes it's not that you get used to it, but it is such an incredible feeling to think that our drinks have impacted people's lives. I mean, it's not just the alcohol thing, it's also the sugar thing. We have people who are diabetic. I had someone email me yesterday saying, "I don't know how you've done it. My husband's been addicted to Coca-Cola for years, and now he reaches for a can of Etch after work every night." And, that just blows my mind. It's just the best feeling. So, yeah, it's the best reward hearing that our drinks are positively impacting people's health.
Looking back, 7 years of Etch now, what would you say have been some of the biggest challenges that you've faced?
Well, I guess in the early days, I think of the challenges of, like I said before, that we attended farmers markets, and the people used to walk past and say, "Oh, alcohol free, why would you bother?" There was this real stigma, and they thought that was so funny. I'm like, why would you say that to an alcohol-free brand? But anyway, that's what people used to say. And what we notice now is that that's very, very few and far between. What we get now is that people are coming up to us saying, "Oh, I've been looking for a non-alcoholic drink. I've been wanting to find something." And, yeah, so that was one of the early challenges. Our biggest challenge, to be honest with you, in the last 12 to 18 months has been keeping up with demand, which sounds quite egotistical. We can't keep up with demand, but it really is a challenge because we need to source the ingredients, which aren't always available. So, just like a vintage of wine is seasonal, and we have to be able to source the fruits. We have to be able to get the time slot in our canning facility. So to do our own canning ourselves is millions of dollars. So we outsource that part of it. And that would be probably one of the biggest challenges is, as a small brand, we would get bumped because there's bigger brands. So that these canning companies, which we've great relationship with the one we work with, but they have many brands that they work with, and sometimes things go wrong on the canning line. And, for example, we just sold out just a couple of weeks before Christmas, which was a nightmare because summer, busiest time of the year. And when we sell out, the majority of our purchases are a mixed pack. So if one flavour sells out, that just throws the whole thing off the rails. So
you lose the entire buying option.
That's right. Yeah. Yes. And, all the ads that are out there in the world, so is a real challenge. It's been something that we've really struggled with. We actually sold out the year before as well, and we made, 3 times as much this year. And so things are going in the right direction, but it's something we need to make sure we get on top of before it happens. And storage is a problem. So we've just bought this new factory, but we're now having to store drinks off site because, we're producing more than we can store. So, that would probably be the biggest. I remember at our launch, one of the lovely people who spoke, she's actually the president of Sommeliers Association, and she said, I hope for you that one day your biggest challenge is being able to keep up with demand, and it's happened.
It's definitely a good problem to have.
It's a good problem to have, but it is still a problem. And so we're working on that. Really, it's making sure we've got the stock now for Christmas. That the good thing about our drinks is there's 2 years shelf life on them. So the producing them now and storing them, that's the challenge. But then it comes down to cash flow, and
Yeah, I don't personally have experience in a products-based business, let alone beverages, but I can imagine it would be very difficult balancing forecasted demands with actual demands versus cash flow needs, and trying to balance all that out, make sure it's all aligned. You produced 3 times more last Christmas than you did the previous Christmas, and you still sold out. It's a great problem to have. The demand is there, but it's the thing of this year, 2026 Christmas, do you go 3 times more again? Do you go 5? Do you go 10 times? And so many unknowns with that, because what if it doesn't sell? And then the cash flow up front to produce all of that, not having that come back immediately.
It really is. And if Jason was here, he would be, because he's the numbers man, he would just be reeling it all off for you. And it really is a challenge because, like, for example, we've had a conversation this week with a business who wants to take us on board in about 8 stores, and they're large, they're actually liquor stores. And so, we immediately have to have that stock available. We've been speaking with convention centres around Australia. We need to have stock on hand when they order. We currently work with Melbourne Convention Centre, and, they do large orders. So you never know when that order's coming in. So having excess stock all the time is, it's all a part of it. It's part of the puzzle to the small business fun and games.
Yeah. And how does the lead time normally look for you? So let's assume, best case scenario, your canning partner, they're not going to bump you to the bottom of the list. They're ready and open to take your next processing order. What's the lead time normally? A big order comes in from the convention centre, let's say. How quickly do you get that turned around normally?
Well, normally it's about 6 weeks, which is too long for most orders. But, if there was something we knew that was coming up that was going to be huge, we could plan for it. But Jason's been really working closely with the canning facility this year to produce monthly, and just continually, having those slots booked in so that we can kind of keep it rolling all year round. Yeah, and but it is forecasting and knowing what's coming is really challenging, because, like you say, if you make too much, you don't want stock sitting around, because not only you want it as fresh as possible, but you also don't want to have to pay for the storage and all of those things. So yeah.
And these B2B relationships, how difficult was it early on to try and get those initial stockists involved? Was it a long process? Was it a bit tedious?
One of our first stockists that came on board was IGA, and they've been a wonderful supporter. So local independent grocery stores and small businesses sort of have been the focus. Now we find that our stockists come to us. So I often get people say to me on Facebook ads and comments, we need a stockist here, we need a stockist here. And I say to them, let your local, health food shop or local grocery store know about us, because if the request comes from the customer, they're more likely to listen.
So much more powerful.
Yeah, and we don't have teams of distributors or sales reps around the country working to get our drinks into venues. So it really comes directly to us and, all from the customer, which is a nice way to do it. I know in the early days I would put the boots on and go and knock on doors, and it's so damaging to the ego when people just turn you down or don't respond to your emails. And I think if you're working for somebody else, it's a different thing. But when you're working for your own brand that you really believe in and people don't even respond to your email, or it's really hard on the ego. So what we find now as we're growing and as word of mouth gets around the country, we're getting businesses coming to us. So that's a great thing to happen.
Yeah. You can't get any better of a marketing than a referral from a customer.
That's right.
There's no better.
Yes, that's right. When the business knows that the customer, is going to purchase from them. So that's where I guess Facebook ads come into it as well. So our ads are, reaching out to obviously people who own businesses as well as consumers. But it's a great way to get the brand out there.
Yeah, fantastic. As you look ahead, what does that next phase of growth look like for Etch? We've touched on a few possible challenges that are on the horizon. Let's say the next 12, 18, 24 months, what's that next phase of growth look like for you?
Yeah. So Jason and I, we often sort of discuss, where do we want Etch to be in 5 years and what's the goal of Etch? And this is probably not the right answer, but we really try and focus, aside from the things that we need to solve, like the stock issues, we really try and focus on enjoying the moment and not looking too far ahead. We're not a brand that wants to be flashy and, grow ridiculously fast. We want sustainable, slow growth and keeping it personal, keeping it authentic, keeping it us. That's the focus. And I think, success for us looks like having happy customers and being able to keep the customer experience a good one. So slow and steady growth, that's the plan.
Slow and steady.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. And that's sometimes the best business growth is slow and steady. So many businesses hear the success stories, which are the outliers really, and they go from here on day 1 and day 100, they're all the way up at the moon, but it's so rare. And some of the most successful businesses are those ones that have just been slow and steady. They've put in the hours that need to be put in, improved their product, and just slowly, bit by bit, they ascend.
It's really hard I have to put my blinkers on sometimes because I do look around at other brands that, may have come after us and, growing faster and doing these fabulous things. And, I have to keep coming back to our core values and, we're not aiming to bring investors on board and grow and sell Etch like Poppy just did for $2 billion in America to Pepsi. That's not the goal. Etch is a legacy brand. And so, it's really important to us for me to put my blinkers on particularly. And Jason's really good. He's really focused on what we're doing. But, I get the flashy lights all around me. I'm like, what about this? What about that? What about that? And, it's really important to stay focused on what we're doing and know what we're doing well. Yeah.
We touched on at the start the trend of non-alcoholic beverages becoming a bit more normalised now, which is fantastic to see. And it gives options for people now, which is great. Do you see that going from strength to strength over the coming years as well?
What I see in the future is it's just going to be not a thing. This is my goal, is that it doesn't really matter what you're drinking, whether you're drinking alcohol or not. It's all part of the beverage list. And I already see it now. I mean, non-alcoholic beers are becoming quite common on a beverage list these days, which is great. I think if I think back to when we started, asking for a non-alcoholic beer, you would be frowned upon. So I see the change going from being really trendy to having non-alcoholic drinks to becoming just a normal thing. And really, that is the end goal, is that we provide options for people who want something delicious, sophisticated. As I said before, our point of difference is that we're not imitating alcohol. So, so many brands out there that do the replica mocktails or the replica spirits, the beers and the wines. But Etch is, standing alone and challenging that idea and saying alcohol-free drinks don't need to look and smell or taste like alcohol to be delicious and moreish and make you feel part of the party.
Yeah.
So, I mean, with Etch, we talk about the ritual very much. So while they don't taste and smell like alcohol, you might want to pour it into a nice wine glass. You might want to put a nice garnish with it. So those are all aspects that, make you feel like you're having a grown-up drink.
You've got so much passion for the brands, and it is infectious because there's so much passion bouncing around today. If you had to put your finger on one thing, what do you love most about Etch?
Oh, as soon as you said that, the word family just flashed up right in my eyes. Our kids have watched Etch. I'm going to get teary. Our kids have been part of our journey from the really heavy, hard part to the really wonderful part that we're at now. Jason and I have got Darby, who is just turned 16, and Maya, who is 18. And Maya's just rocked up at work this morning packing boxes. She's actually about to start uni. And Darby works on the weekends after school. So having our family involved and having them understand what Etch is about, having them be there for the whole journey, being able to share what we do with Etch, how it impacts other people, and having them a part of the business. Yeah, it's definitely, there's so many aspects to it. I mean, influencing them in their lives, obviously around the discussion around alcohol. Again, it's never been prohibitionist, but they have a much healthier view of what the role of alcohol in, people's lives is. And, I don't know if they're going to want to work in the business forever. Maya wants to be in medicine and Darby wants to be a pilot. So they've got high ambitions, but family, to answer your question.
I'm sure they would be eagerly anticipating Etch up in the skies as a pilot or in the operating theatre after the procedure.
Yes, it's true. Well, Darby jokes about being able to deliver Etch all around the country in his plane. So yeah.
That'd be so cute to get a little Etch plane.
I know, get it branded.
Yeah.
We have the bug van. So I don't know if the branding is actually comes from a Christmas beetle. So that was the initial, I can't think of the word I'm trying to think of. Inspiration, thank you. The inspiration comes from the Australian Christmas beetle. So the Australian native ingredients are made up of, on the Christmas beetle on the body. The inspiration for Etch comes from the Australian native Christmas beetle, and all of the native ingredients are made up of the beetle's body. And, we have the Etch bug van, which is the local van. If you see our delivery van, it's got Etch bugs on it. Locals know it as the bug van. But imagine if we could have the Etch bug plane. I like it. Let's work on that.
That could be the next phase of growth.
That's it. That's the next 5-year plan.
That's sensational. I would love to see that.
Yeah.
Well, one final question for you before we wrap up. And I think it's an important one based on everything we've spoken about this morning. And it's for anyone that's listening who may be questioning their relationship with alcohol. What would you want them to hear?
I would want them to hear that there is support out there, that they're not alone, that it's a challenging thing, and that, there are so many people out there to support you. Just come my way and I'll point you in the right direction. Yeah.
Love it. We finish every episode with the same question. And I'd love you to finish this sentence, please. A modern brand succeeds when it is willing to what?
Learn.
Learn. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Again, these words keep popping to me when you talk, but for us, Etch is all about listening and learning. And, you know, because native Australian ingredients are such a pivotal part of our business, an important part, listening and learning to First Nations people and respecting the knowledge that, you know, comes before us is a really important part of the business. So, yeah, learning from others, listening. Uncle Lionel always talks about how we have one mouth and two ears. And I think we need to listen more and talk less.
Fantastic. Thank you, Andy. This has been fascinating learning more about Etch and the purpose-driven nature of the brands that it is can be heard in everything that you say. So it's been lovely.
Thank you. Really loved our chat.